We're discussing the Senate's billion-dollar tax cut plan next. Hello again. I'm sitting here with two GOP senators who will help partially write the state budget. Andrew Brock of Davie County, Tommy Tucker of Union County. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you for having me here.
Let's talk about this session before we talk money. How's it going for you, Senator Brock?
I think it's going very well. We see the successes we've had in past legislation, policy we've implemented here in the state, the numbers that are coming in as far as the economic forecast and job growth has been phenomenal. So we just want to continue on that success and pass good legislation.
Senator Tucker, what's the word out of Union County?
Well, the session started pretty slow for me, I think. I sense, this is my fourth one, I sense we're not moving quite as quickly as we should. But then again, I don't make all the calls, so we're here and ready to do the work of the people.
What's a good pace, even as a senator who has to spend at least 4 days a week down here, sometimes 4.5, what's a good pace for you?
Well, a good 10-hour day. We have now started putting the session at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so we have more time for committee meetings, more time for discussion, more time for public input and more transparency. So it elongates the day, but the day, as long as you're moving and doing things and not waiting around for committee meetings, we're okay, as long as we can get the work done.
Senator Brock, we hear just a few issues floating around. The tax plan we're going to get to, we've been talking about HB2s. It's been a year yet, but it's close to it. So when people see, they don't see all these bills moving in the background, but is it a good flow of legislation going through, and is it okay if there's not much going on in Raleigh at any given week?
We got to think about when Republicans took over in 2011, how much legislation we took up in a short amount of time. You know, it was over 140 years before Republicans controlled the General Assembly, and we were literally sitting in the wings for decades with great legislation, property rights, tax reform, budget reforms, education reform, reg reform, all the things we were waiting for years and years and years. And so when we finally had the opportunity to have our bills heard, we moved on it. And that's one reason why the pace was it seemed so frantic for so many people, including some staff. That was really tough for them to keep up because the slow pace that existed before the Republicans took over. But since we've taken over, we've put in a lot of major pieces of legislation. It's been a shot across the nation. Other states are looking at what we're doing here. We get contacts from other legislators from across the country and say, how did y'all do this? How did y'all do that? And it doesn't stop. I mean, we are the Dixie Dynamo reborn.
You came in with the majority, if I remember correctly,
That's correct.
A few years ago. So when you come in, how do you know how hard to push things and how fast to push them? And then when is it time to glide back into cruise control and let a bill work its way through? Like Senator Brock said, there was some frantic activity there for a session or two.
Well, that first session, it was like drinking from a fire hose in 11, and the pace that Andrew refers to was frantic to get things done, to turn the state around. We thought we could do it in a 6-year plan, and we've accomplished that. But the pace, the first couple of years for a rookie, very difficult. But now you know what to pick and choose and discern and read and try to understand. Pick your special areas of expertise that you've spent your time dwelling on, and trust your peers in the Senate to be able to offer you the same advice on legislation they're working on.
What's it like to have a Democratic governor this time around who uses the bully pulpit, I dare say?
Well, I've actually met with the governor a couple of times and have worked with his staff on a couple of things we agree with. Governor Cooper comes in with as much legislative experience as any governor. I think we can get things done. He spoke about common ground. We're certainly going to try to find that, but there are those things that divide us greatly, and compromise is going to have to come about, or some things are not going to get done that he wants done.
Governor Cooper certainly different than former Governor McCrory, but there was tension with the McCrory administration as well. What's the differences in working with a GOP administration versus the new Democratic?
I think a lot of times you check your party labels at the door because different areas of the state almost have different philosophies. And when you're working with that to try to how do you represent all the people of the state and make sure that you're looking out for the East and the Piedmont and the mountains and the Sandhills, all the different communities, rural versus urban, is trying to bridge that with whatever governor. And I've been here through 4 governors now, and when you're trying to work through that issue, it's, there is some compromise on some issues, and there's also a lot of understanding about, what impacts a different part of the state and what you need to do to help them. So a lot of times we've had this type of tension before. With Governor Easley, it was the same thing, and the Democrats were reaching out to Republicans and say, help us talk to the governor. And same thing with Perdue, McCrory, and now Cooper. So I don't think it ever changes. I think it's just that because the party banner has changed on the governor, I still think the internal dynamics of relating to one another still exist.
It makes political fighting much more easier for everyday folks to understand,
right.
because Democrats are supposed to fight with Republicans. Senator
Right.
Tucker, is that the way it is anymore? Is it? I mean, because I see the governor put his sound bites out there. I see Senator Berger, the president. I heard you guys. You're certainly partisan when you need to be. So what dynamic should we expect between Republicans and a Democrat?
Well, I still think Governor Cooper's trying to get his landing gear down, having been in the party of power for such a long time. It's a different dynamic for him. I understand some of the issues that he has. We came right out of the chute with our partisanship. There was a lot of distrust in the December session. There's been a lot of distrust over the last couple of months, but I don't think a lot of the legislators really know him and really know what he's about, and we just need to find those areas such as economic development that we can agree with and we can get something done for the state.
On that one-on-one level, how do governors treat you? Could you pick up the phone and call the governor? Can you walk over and have a cup of coffee with whether it's McCrory or Cooper? Is that the way it works? Are you that close, or is it strictly a business relationship and you get treated like any other North Carolinian who goes knocking on the governor's door?
Well, Governor Cooper and I have something in common in that I spent some time in Spring Hope, which is 9 miles away from his hometown, knew of his dad, knew of his mom teaching school, his favorite cousin. She and I went to high school together. Knew a lot about Governor Cooper before I met him. Kind of surprised him, I guess, when we met years ago at Wingate when he spoke at graduation, and then now in this role as senator and he as governor. But I think there are things that we can work out with Governor Cooper. It's just got to be. But we need to know each other. We need to be able to understand basically all you have in politics is your word. If you say you're going to do something, you need to do it. And once we can establish that trust level between Governor Cooper, Senator Berger, Speaker Moore, I think things will move along for North Carolinians. I don't think they want to see us fighting like they do in Washington and getting absolutely nothing done.
And I think in the past, working with the governors, is that, like I said, when there's an issue and you pick up the phone and say, Governor, we need to meet. I know Governor Perdue's first day on the job, we brought a delegation from people back in the Piedmont over the I-85 bridge between over the Yadkin River between Davidson and Rowan County, people from both areas, bipartisan group. And first day of the job, we worked on that. First day on the job that with Governor McCrory was the same thing. We brought in industry leaders, not just in the United States, but across the world, and met with a group of people about how do we expand North Carolina businesses and how do we attract. So I think anytime you pick up the phone and you want to call, when I do, if I don't call them every day. I said, when I've got something, it's something pretty big. So, and it's paid off. And I think once you get past that, at the end of the day, everybody wants to do their best for North Carolina. And that's one thing you have to do is try to work through that and get over the partisanship or gamesmanship that sometimes happens in politics.
Well, there's some areas Republicans and Democrats never agree upon.
That's right.
But why doesn't bipartisanship, why doesn't that make people money? Why doesn't that help elect candidates in the Democratic and Republican primary? Why doesn't it equal ratings on the local news?
Well, I think you hit a point is what does the news pick up? I served 8 years in the minority. And even then, I voted with a majority, close to 80% of the time. Now, sometimes that might have been a local bill pertaining to golf cart regulation, and in the majority, guess what? The minority party votes with us about 80% of the time. We haven't had a contested vote, probably about 1 or 2 this week out of all the votes we've had. And so many times you do work together, you do compromise, but that really doesn't make the news. It's when we're going after one another in a debate or whatever, that's what brings people's attention. But so many times we do know each other, we work with each other all the time, that doesn't draw the media attention. And when people like to see a good fight, so they tune into the local news when we have a disagreement.
Why do we love good political fights? We act like we hate them, but we go home, watch the news, we watch Fox and MSNBC, and we eat it up, Mr. Tucker.
Well, it's just about emotion. That's what it's about more than about the facts and the showmanship and the spin. So people look at that more than most of the things that we're involved in. Again, in politics, it's like making sausage. It's slow, it's not noisy, it's mundane, it's boring, and so a good fight always traps the media to put it on the air versus what we do day in and day out.
I remember when Governor Cooper was first taking office, I did read reports to say, can Governor Cooper work with the legislature? You don't have to work with him at all. You got 2/3 majorities in the House and Senate right now.
That's right.
I've not heard your leadership remind the state of that. Why not?
Well, no need to. We need to respect the office of the governor. We need to help him be as successful in areas we can agree on as much as possible. He's a North Carolinian too, and just because he's a Democrat, we make decisions once we're elected, certainly to protect our district and to look after our district, but also we're making decisions for all North Carolinians as well as he is. So he's putting forth his agenda, and where we can agree, we'll work with him on it. I guarantee you that. And I talked to one of his advisors today. I talked to one last week. It's not near as much vitriol between the Republican-Democrat chasm as the press would make it out to be.
Do they just tell you up front, we're not going to go with you this far on this issue?
That's
Is
right.
it just a business decision? Or?
Right, and we tell them that. And once they understand where we are and we understand where they are, we just move along the lines that our parameters are and move forward. But I mean, I can't, as a Republican senator, dismiss the office of the governor and what he represents and who he represents in the state. After all, by a slim margin, he's still governor, and I'm going to respect that office. And quite frankly, if you look at Roy Cooper as an individual, you have to respect him as well, he and his family.
Do you guys feel respected? Do you feel like people look at you as human beings out there, depending on the media outlet? I mean, conservative media is going to love both of you. Liberal media, or what you would call that, who write op-eds against you, you know, they can be pretty tough on you. How do you feel about it?
Well, we give them a lot of material, liberal media outlets, something that would get their base agitated. The conservative ones, but a lot of people just want to know at the end of the day, what's really happening behind the scenes. Looking at a piece of legislation, look how it impacts their life. You know, my father used to say, in you know, almost through every major issue we've had in our country, you had a third of people for it and a third against it, and a third of the middle who just want to be left alone. You know, they want to live their life, spend time with their kids, their family, work in their jobs, you know, run their companies, and not be interfered with politics. And it's how we came to this country, one way or another, normally through a repressive government or something that happened to us. We want government out of our lives. And I think both liberals and conservatives can kind of agree on it in different degrees. But how do we get there? And, you know, when people are looking at it, if there a different tone today, maybe because of social media, because now everybody has an outlet. Could be. But then again, where the left has one, you know, an account on social media, someone on the right has an account on social media. So for most of it, you know, you just have to, you know, think about what you hold dear, the values that you hold dear in your life, and what you want to work on. And that's what you know, that's what you try to do up here. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, people that were your biggest detractor sometimes become your biggest fans on issues, and vice versa, just because it could be one or two issues that swing them the other way. But I think, you know, at the end, you just have to keep going and run your own race.
Now, down here in Raleigh, is fake news a problem? I've seen representatives and senators preemptively strike on the media before they've even told the story of what you're trying to do, because this is what the media is going to do to us. Happened in Phil Berger's GOP response. I've heard Representative Jimmy Dixon say the same thing in committee. And it alludes to the whole fake news thing. Is that a problem in Raleigh, or is everything on the up and up down here in terms of?
If you're asking me,
I'm asking you.
If you're asking me, is the media slanted one way or the other? Absolutely.
Are they lying
Is it
about you?
favorable?
Yeah.
I wouldn't go so much as saying they're lying about us. They probably don't disseminate the complete facts to the consumer of news. I get along well with the media. They got a job to do. Again, I dislike some of the characterizations they give us and the cartoons they write about us constantly. But, you know, really it's just part of it, and you just have to move on and keep doing what you think, as Andrew's alluded to, is right, and just run your own boat.
Let's talk money, because you're going to get a lot of attention over this tax package. You call it
Sure.
$1 billion tax cut plan, Senator Tucker.
For middle class.
For the middle class.
It is.
Explain how you get what is middle class? I don't know how much money that is, and then how do you get to $1 billion in savings?
Well, when we talk about middle class, we tend to talk about $50,000 or less. And so most of the tax cut that we have introduced impacts those people who make $50,000 or less. We're taking 94,000 people off the tax rolls, meaning they pay absolutely zero in tax. So it helps the low wealth individuals who are struggling, and it certainly helps that family of four whose dad's making $40,000 a year with two kids. He doesn't pay any tax on his first $27,000 or so of income. So it gives them money back in their pocket to utilize for daycare or whatever they need to do, but it just gives the money back to the people. The collections are up. We're running a surplus. We still don't know what that surplus will be after April 15th, but we've got pretty good projections on what we think is going to happen. So when we have additional monies, we need to give it back to the people where it came from. And it's common ground with the governor. He said the other night in his state of status address that he wanted to put money back into North Carolinians' pockets. And that's exactly what we're doing, but we're doing that now.
Because Bob Rucho, the former Mecklenburg County senator, is gone, so I guess a team's coming together. That tax reformer is there, Andrew Brock. Tell me about this. You cut $1 billion, or you refund $1 million back through lower taxes on families in North Carolina. From the philosophy in this particular proposal that's coming, I want to word this correctly. Is it you see the state over collecting, so therefore the people need a tax reduction, or do you think the tax reduction is driving economic growth in North Carolina, and that's why you're doing it? Is government too profitable, or does the economy get better the lower you cut taxes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's yes and a yes on both of them. And that way, we looked at one thing that we did, unlike other states that went down this route of lowering taxes. We looked at the budget, made sure we had budget discipline to make sure that the money we were collecting was going to the services that were provided. And if there was waste, fraud, or abuse, we've been rooting that out over the last 6 years, and we've been able to cut billions and billions out of what we needed to run state government. But also, we were able to put money back into the rainy day fund to fully fund the pension plan. In fact, until we took over as Republicans for 12 years, the Democrats did not fully fund the state pension plan, and the health care plan was going broke. Those were obligations that we made to the state employees, and it was the Republicans who kept them. We put our obligations first, and then the needs of the state, and we pushed any type of want that a particular senator or representative may have last. And so when you take care of your obligations and needs first in your budget, we found out we were collecting way too much money. So we took the money and put it back into the hands of the people. It was their money to begin with. Now they've been able to either spend it, save it, or invest it. And you look at our economy and what's happened with the job growth with companies where a company said, I can hire another employee. Now there's not a ribbon, it doesn't create a lot of media attention, but for that company and for that employee, that's big, big news in their life. They've got a job. And when you're looking at, hey, we can put some money away for this, or we can do that, or hey, we can go on that trip down to Outer Banks we always promise, or a trip up to the mountains. And we looked at the last year, over 2016, tourism spending was up 5.63%. I don't think it's grown like that in a long, long time. And that was a time that when we were attacked on a national level as a state, tourism went up 5.63%. So I think what we're doing here in North Carolina is attracting companies. Our companies here are growing, and people are seeing what we're doing. They want to come here, not just vacation here, but move their companies here.
Where are you taking rates from to where under this proposal?
First of all, on the personal income tax rate, it goes from 5.499 to 5.35. We are taking the corporate tax rate from 3% down to 2.75 in 18 and 2.5 in 19. Certainly, Forbes magazine says we're number 2 best state to do business in. We may become the best state to do business in the U.S. We have reduced regulation. We've done those things that we need to do, and when, as a result of the moves we've made and the things that Andrew's mentioned, we certainly see monies coming in, and we want to return it to the folks. That's the best place for it. They're more wise about spending their money than we are, we believe, so we are returning it to them.
People understand the personal income tax going down because that is money in our pockets. That
That's
corporate tax rate, though, I've seen Republicans and Democrats fight over this one
You're
a
right.
time or three. So what happens if you cut the corporate income tax rate? I heard the Associated Press reporter say, these businesses can pay more, and that may not fund a teacher pay raise. You see the link going out to that, things of that nature.
Right.
How do you see corporate taxes philosophically?
Well, philosophically, CEOs look at corporate taxes, and if we have the lowest tax rate of any state that has a corporate income tax, it's more favorable when they make a decision. And it's not true that we're not going to be able to fund a teacher raise. Sure. The commitments we made, the promises that our leadership has made, we're there to do that. They've got another increase coming this year. We're going to be able to do it. Our discipline on spending and our taxation discipline that we've had so far, this last tax cut will be $4 billion in revenue we've returned to the economy, and the economy has in kind responded. So we're very pleased with the results and plan to move forward with that.
As you write policy, Senator Brock, or play a role in it, do you look at the bigger picture? And we're 8 years into a weak bull run, but the stock market's done well. The economy depends on who you ask.
Right.
Are you expecting an end to this? Do you expect a recession in the Trump administration? Do you think about that as you craft policy, including lowering tax rates or changing the budget in some fundamental way?
Well, you always, you want to plan for those rainy days and things that happen because no one can predict the market, no matter who they are or how good they say they are. They're just looking at really at the margins of what they can make on the margins. But looking at that, you have to plan. There could be another disaster, another natural disaster. There could be another attack on us, on our country, things that are outside our influence. But what you have to make sure is that we put our obligations and our priorities as a state government and make sure that we can fund them no matter what. And that's one reason why we reformed our tax code, to make sure that we diversified our income sources for a state to make sure that we could withstand. Because when we went through the recession, and we had such a heavy dependency upon the income tax, we hit harder than any other state during a recession. And we were losing jobs right and left, that by the thousands I know in my district, with the closure of plants and factories and mills. And that income tax, the reliance on that and the old tax system was very detrimental as far as having a government and services that we needed to provide for. Our prisons, our court systems, our road structure, everything we had, we said we need to make sure that the tax system that we have could sustain a good functioning government even through bad times. And the one that was previously installed by the Democrats was not working, and we had to change it and make these fundamental changes so that we can withstand the next time we go through a recession or any type of economic downturn.
How close is tax policy to what you as a senator would like to see? 6 years in now, are we getting close, or is the goal zero income taxes, consumption-based model?
Well, in my opinion, I don't know if the political will is there to go to zero. That is where we would like to see it go, but we're going to have to broaden the base. And then when you start broadening the base, it gets very difficult, charging for one service or another, even though everybody will admit we're a service economy. But we have the taxes where they need to be in 2017 and 18 and 19. We'll have to look at that down the road. Again, as Andrew alluded to, we're prepared for a recession. We've got over $2.5 billion in the unemployment fund, whereas when we started the last recession, it was about 400,000 in it, and we blew that out in about 5 weeks and then began borrowing from the federal government. The previous administrations didn't prepare for a rainy day. We have, and we'll be ready to go through it before we have to start borrowing money or raising taxes. We should be prepared to get through one. If it's not too long, if it's an elongated recession, then we'll have to deal with that then. But the availability of revenue is there today. We feel like that raising the standard deduction from $17,500 to $20,000, raising the mortgage interest and rate and deduction from 20 to 22, helping families with homes with their mortgage and interest deduction, helping the S Corps with their flat fee of $200 for an S Corp, gives them a $1,300 tax break that's there. We continue to work on single sales factor, not to penalize companies that are already in the state. And then the market-based sourcing will not penalize any service companies when their customers are in North Carolina. So we're making the moves in the tax policy that we need to make to continue to have the receipts and revenues that we need to have, and we believe the economy will continue to expand.
A lot of my colleagues I respect very much down here in the media. They'll have articles, and you'll see it on the news. So pay attention, folks. But Senator Tucker and Senator Brock here are going to write this policy. I guarantee we'll see it in the Senate budget. But gentlemen, thank you so much for being on this new show. We're calling it Common Ground. Go home and tell everybody to
Common
watch.
Ground.
Common Ground. And it's going to be online
The
and on TV.
legislature and the government.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
North Carolina Channel is made possible by the financial contributions of viewers like you who support the UNC TV network.